to participate and invest in training for you and your employees pays dividends beyond just for your business. Sure, training programs can help your company be better, but they'll also help the industry your company serves. Hi there, welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Airing It Out with AirVent. My name is Paul Pscelsi. I host AirVent's Attic Ventilation Ask the Expert seminars offered every winter to residential roofing professionals all across North America since 1998. Robby Wilkerson is co-owner, along with his wife JC, of Sustainable Roofing in College Station, Texas. After attending the AirVent seminar recently, they wrote a positive review saying, "We use this seminar to help train employees." That comment triggered the focus of this episode, training and the importance of it, and not just attic ventilation training. We're talking about training involving any part of the residential roofing project or the behind-the-scenes aspects of the process. I'd like to introduce Robby to our podcast. Welcome, Robby.
Hey, Paul. Glad to be here.
Appreciate your time, Robby. Thank you so much for being our guest. Robby, in general, what is the value of investing in training your team?
The value is limitless, and it comes in so many different forms, from employee retention to just overall gaining trust in our clients while we're there, to not have one person that's specialized in this and another at that, so that every time we show up, you get the same results and the same level of involvement. So instead of I've had employees that didn't know as much about ventilation and would trip up and have to call me to try and explain to a customer why we would want to change their ventilation. Well, when we have the entire team trained on all the same knowledge, it guarantees the same results and a seamless sales process.
Makes sense. A very consistent outcome for the client.
Yes, and that happens not just in the sales aspect, but all areas of the company itself. Every person on our team can fill in at any point for any other person. Anything from the initial sales call to the behind the scenes ordering materials, scheduling crews, ventilation inspections, overall project management, you name it, and we can all do it. So it just really, really helps out, especially if one person's pulled away for, anything. They could be out on vacation or a family emergency or just not available in general out on a project. And
Sure.
We don't have to worry or hold anything up. We can all step in and just make it happen.
That's great. Yeah, because things come up in the course of the day, course of the week. So it makes your entire team very versatile. That's great, Robby. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Robby, you made it very clear in past conversations, preparing for this episode even, that attic ventilation best practices are definitely part of your team's education. Would you kindly speak a bit about that portion of the roofing project and how it's helped sustainable roofing, how attic ventilation has helped sustainable roofing?
Yeah. Ventilation in particular, was actually one of the cornerstones of why we wanted to start our own company. I'm going to take it back a step on how we got interested in ventilation. Being a roofer in Texas, I thought I knew about ventilation. It was always brought up, but I had honestly never even heard NFA until I left Texas and moved to Oregon for a little while and continued in the roofing industry up there, where before I got hired on, they said, "Oh, do you know about ventilation?" Yeah, absolutely. And I thought I did. And boy, was I wrong. Up there in the Pacific Northwest, Portland area specifically, it's cold and wet for 4 to 5 months out of the year. And mold is a huge issue where we don't have that problem in Texas. It's just hot. But in Portland, when I went on attic inspections, I could physically see dead spots for ventilation and where mold would start to grow, and be able to form in my mind a visual of how the ventilation works from intake to exhaust, one seamless circuit in and out. And whenever we came back to Texas, that was a cornerstone of wanting to bring that knowledge back here to Texas, because I realized how wrong I'm not going to say all people here. There are definitely companies that, focus on ventilation and are knowledgeable in it, but there's a lot of them in my area specifically that don't. And so we wanted to be able to lower people's attic temperatures and save on their utilities and make their roofs last longer. And that's so every appointment we go on, that's what we focus on. Obviously putting a great roof up there, but to bring more to the table when we do that. And by doing that, it helps us gain trust in us from the customers as roofing professionals, not just as some random contractor or chucking a truck. So yeah, sorry, I'm trying to think of the words. I'm drawing a blank here, but just overall helping the process, of gaining trust. And even outside of that, it does help boost our sales because during July and August, it's exceptionally hot here in Central Texas, and the roofing projects are a little bit slower. So we can pivot our sales to try and focus on improved attic ventilation, whether that's passive ventilation using air vent or powered ventilation using solar powered attic fans.
Sure.
We found that we actually get an uptick in sales because we start promoting and advertising for that specific part, because that's when people need it the most. So
right.
It's really, yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say a supplemental income, but it does help us transition over to other means of income. So it really helps us a lot.
Great. And Robby, while that's happening, you're genuinely helping the roofing project itself for the homeowner.
Yes, exactly. Because that's, kind of our motto is a better approach to roofing. And so we want to always be trained on what the newest technology in roofing and even in ventilation, you're still constantly learning. That's why we like to go to these trainings, yours in particular, every time it comes up, because there's always going to be something new, a new product or a new way to go about improving ventilation. And we always want to be on the forefront of that to best help our customers.
Thank you. Thank you, Robby. For our listeners who may be unfamiliar, NFA that Robby mentioned earlier stands for net free area. Every non-motorized vent has an airflow capacity, and that's mentioned or listed in NFA, net free area. Robby, I love that the connection to attic ventilation for you brought you through Portland. Portland, Oregon is one of AirVent's best attended seminar programs, and a lot of participation from folks out in Portland, and I'm going to count you among them with the Texas connection too now. But thank you for sharing with us, and that helps the credibility of the program. Robby, if I may, what other areas of the residential roofing process have you made a point to offer training opportunities to your team?
Every single day is a potential training opportunity. I've been in roofing for a little over 8 years and own my own company for going on 3 years now. And it's amazing how many little tidbits of knowledge you learn and you gain during that time. And so every time I'm out on a project with someone and we're up on a roof, each roof is different and has different aspects of it that I'm able to at times point out, hey, do you notice this? Well, this is why we do this. Or it could be something where it's a 1-story to 2-story transition. They have a downspout from the gutters that's coming out across the roof line instead of down the roof line. That's an opportunity to show them, hey, that's a potential weak spot in this roofing system because the water's now flowing an unnatural way. Water once shed down, now it's going across and they're probably going to have a leak. So every little thing and every day is an opportunity for some sort of training. Training doesn't have to be going to another city for a big ordeal and having to spend the night. Every single day and every single project grants an opportunity for training.
Robby, I like that mindset. I honestly didn't think of it that way. Thanks for opening up my eyes. I did associate training with like an official event or program, but no, everyday activities, everyday working opportunities is a training. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I've always been focused on that. Even before I was in roofing, I was in route sales and became the depot sales trainer. And so I've always just loved to share knowledge with people. And I hope it doesn't ever come across, as thinking that I'm better than anyone else or
Now,
mansplaining or anything like that. But it really is. It's just a general, uh, almost a need to share the knowledge that I have to see other people be more successful. And I thrive on that, and I love it.
I
Uh,
love that.
yeah, and we do still keep in constant contact with our suppliers and asking them, hey, what upcoming trainings are there? Even if we need to travel to Houston or Dallas, we try to make to all the RCAT annual deals. So just every opportunity that's out there, we try and throw our hat in if it's possible.
Sure. We can call it, Robby, formal, organized training, like going to a seminar, and then just everyday work situations, training opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Robby, while preparing for this episode together, you told me that the simple act of including your team members in training opportunities was motivating to them. They reported to you and JC. They found it very motivating. Would you kindly elaborate a little bit on that for our listeners, the motivational aspect?
Yeah, one particular training comes to mind, when we talked about this previously, was the air vent training in Houston, and brought our production manager with us. Got us each a room at the hotel the night before, woke up, did the training. He even won a solar attic fan at the end of the training. Y'all
Love
do
it.
some giveaways. But after the training, we sat down just to kind of recap what he learned and what I learned and what JC learned, and just because even not, I learned the term Bernoulli effect,
Yes.
and and even though I've taken the training before, I'm picking up on new stuff every time. But anyway, back to the production manager. He made it a point to say thank you for including me in this, because the previous company he was at just kind of treated him as a grunt worker and never invested the time or money to formally train him in any other aspect other than just on the job training. And so he genuinely just really appreciated feeling like a part of a team and feeling that we're investing time and money into making sure that he's the best part of our team that he can be, and the best representation of our company, and just overall to be able to help the customers out even more.
That's great. Robby, you got my mind spinning here as I'm listening to you explain. Thank you. Oftentimes, when the seminar is over, whatever city I'm in, I see a handful of teams staying behind, and I don't eavesdrop, and I really don't know exactly what they're talking about, but sometimes I can hear they're doing a mini recap of some of the points they picked up, and I love that, and I'm glad you're finding it helpful. For our listeners, Robby, if I may, the Bernoulli effect that Robby mentioned, the Bernoulli effect, the Bernoulli principle, it's named after a scientist. That's when the wind hits an external wind baffle on a vent, and it uses the wind to cause some lift and pull more air out of the attic. Come to the seminar and we'll talk more about it. Robby, if you feel comfortable explaining this, how, for fellow business owners, how might they overcome the challenge they might be experiencing of getting staff to participate, other than, okay, you're required to? Of course, you can strong arm somebody, I guess, but how do you overcome the challenge of getting folks interested to participate?
It can be in multiple different ways. You can make it an event where, if the training is on a Thursday, go ahead and book rooms for the team the night before, take them out to dinner. If there's any other events happening, there could be a sporting event or something like that, where you make it more than just about the training. You make it a company outing, something
Sure.
to be excited about. And even if that happens before or after the training. And then additionally, it also kind of starts behind the scenes, where, like I had mentioned, that I enjoy the training aspect and passing knowledge on. And so my team is always ready and willing to learn little bits and pieces, because it actually gets them excited, because they feel, again, more professional in their industry, and they have a thirst for knowledge where they're excited to learn more. It's not just throwing stuff at them. They're open and receptive to wanting to know more and to be better.
Sure. Love that, Robby. Thirst for knowledge. It sounds like, Robby, you're creating a culture of a thirst for knowledge at Sustainable Roofing. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. and that's what we try to do. And that's where, even in the hiring, we want people that think a little bit differently than the industry typically does, at least in our area. Again, I don't want anybody to think that I have a bad idea of roofing as a whole. There are really, really good and great companies out there that care on every single project, but especially in Texas, there are a lot of what we call lazy roofers. And we want to change that mindset that, there's true professionals out here, especially in our area of, Bryan, College Station and Central Texas.
Yes. Robby, any concerns about balancing time away from actual work during training?
That hasn't really been an issue for us, but sometimes there can be time restraints, but running the company, we're able to schedule around those days. Let's say if we have to be gone for a day or two, we just schedule inspections and things like that for outside of those events. Also, the ability for us to continuously go to these trainings, even if one person one year isn't able to make it, we make it a point that they get to go the next year. Sure. And so everybody still gets the same level of training, even if some people have to stay home and take care of business while the rest are out learning. So it's just constantly moving.
Robby, as we wrap up this episode of our podcast, is there anything you'd like to add for our listeners, either about investing in training and its benefits, or really, Robby, anything at all?
I'd say one thing I really love about investing in training for your employees and your team is that eventually it actually takes weight off of you, because there are other people. You get less of those phone calls of, hey, what do I do here? And they can just handle it on their own out in the field. And everybody always wants to have systems in place that make things run more smoothly. And obviously for the owners to be able to take a step aside and help grow the business in other ways, instead of having to answer those phone calls to help out team members when, I could be meeting with other business owners or working on marketing or doing something else. It just really helps free up my time as an owner to be able to do the behind the scenes stuff that most people that haven't ran a company don't realize happens. Yeah.
It sounds like, Robby, your team becomes ever bit more self-sufficient.
That's exactly it.
That's great. Robby, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today. And again, I really liked the connection, Texas to Portland, back to Texas. That's really neat. And we appreciate and value you sharing with us on behalf of AirVent, the roofing industry, and homeowners. Thank you, Robby.
Yeah, and thank you, Paul, and thank you, AirVent, for the trainings that you put on. The visual aspect of it is so huge. You can read articles online and this, that, and the other, but the professionalism that you have as a speaker and the slides that you show really, really help bring it home in understanding how ventilation works from start to finish, and how short circuiting and just so many different things. I mean, those in-person trainings are huge.
Thank you, Robby. Really do appreciate that. For our listeners, we do seminars every January, February, March, and you can find the upcoming schedule on airvent.com. Incorporating training opportunities for your team not only helps improve what your company does day to day, it helps the industry you serve. Well, that wraps up this episode. Please leave a review on YouTube or whatever platform you used to listen to this episode. Be sure to let us know if there's a topic you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Maybe you'd like to be a guest one day, like Robby was a guest, or maybe you know someone who would make a great guest. Drop us a note on the podcast page of our website, airvent.com. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And please come back for more Airing It Out with AirVent. I'm Paul Pscelsi. Thanks for listening.